just think we might want to go back to that story that's on the Blaze, the liberal writer's Al Jazeera op-ed, because I'd like to compare this with the op-ed piece that was in from Krugman on the from the New York Times. And let me ask you, do you remember what Michelle Obama said? We're going to have to change our history. We're going to have to change our language. We're going to have to change our traditions.
And Barack knows that we are going to have to make sacrifices. We are going to have to change our conversation. We're going to have to change our traditions, our history. Yes. We're going to have to move into a different place.
Yeah, we are. We are, aren't we? This is exactly what they're doing. Compare this in Al Jazeera to what is being said now in the New York Times by Krugman. This is from a guy who is a professor at the Graduate School of Journalism at the University of California, Berkeley. Boy, you want to talk about bad journalists. That's where that would got to be the home of it. He writes, haven't we had enough of ourselves? Let's end all things 9/11. He said there's no need to read the names of those who lost and bring past and current presidents together to honor first responders. Well, good, we didn't do that. And to have moments of silence. It doesn't take long, though, for his article to extend beyond the reaches of the horrific terrorist attacks that took America by storm. He said, if we wanted a memorial to 9/11, it would have been more appropriate to leave one of the giant shards of broken tower there untouched. Oh, would it? Is that nice? If we have any respect for history, humanity, or if we have any common decency left, it's time to rip the Band-Aid off the wound and remove 9/11 from our collective consciousness. Wow. Why won't America stop exploiting the anniversary of remembrances? Stop exploiting 9/11. Gee, that sounds familiar, doesn't it, Pat?
Yeah.
That sound...
Isn't that kind of what Richard Trumka just did late last week?
Oh, I was thinking that it was exactly the same article from what's his name in the New York Times this week? Paul Krugman.
It's been done over and over and over again in the last few days by the left.
Right. Let's get to the Richard Trumka because there is a great point.
Yeah.
He said, we could stop using 9/11 to make ourselves feel like a far better country than we are. This is in Al Jazeera. No more invocations of those attacks to explain otherwise inexplicable wars in Iraq and Afghanistan or our oh-so-global war on terror. No more invocations of 9/11 to keep the Pentagon and the national security state flooded with money. No more invocations of 9/11 to justify every encroachment on liberty. Oh, my gosh. Every new step in the surveillance of Americans, every advance in pat-downs, wand-downs, and strip-downs that keep fear high and Homeland Security afloat. You've got to be kidding me. This is from a lefty. You've got your Marxist president in office, and you're saying this. He says 9/11 has been misused and that blood is on the hands of Americans as a result of all the Middle Eastern wars that have been launched over the last decade. Hey, how about that whole Libyan thing, huh? Why don't you use that one? That's weird. The facts on 9/11 are, in this sense, simple. It wasn't a nuclear attack. It wasn't apocalyptic. The cloud and smoke where the tower stood was no mushroom cloud. It was not potentially civilization ending. Oh, really? It did not endanger the existence of our country or even New York City. Despite the screaming headlines, Ground Zero wasn't Pearl Harbor. Al-Qaeda wasn't Japan, nor was it Nazi Germany. It wasn't even the Soviet Union. It had no army. It had no finances to speak of and possessed no state. Oh. He reinforces later in the article his view that the U.S. is a tattered nation in decline, teetering on the edge of financial disaster. It has a mess of an economy and is experiencing weird weather, among other negative statements. He says Ground Zero is not hallowed ground. It is defiled ground. And because we have caused it to be so. Could you give me the line?
Why did you go back to the Krugman article there? I don't understand.
Exactly right. Is it a coincidence that these two lefties just kind of come up with the same language?
Real news from both sources.
Exactly right. There is no difference between Al Jazeera and the New York Times. There is no difference between Al Jazeera and the New York Times. This is why GBTV is charting a new course. Because when you hear, we'll get into it here in a few minutes, when you hear some of the numbers on what has happened to this nation since 9/11 in regards to Islamic extremism, it'll boggle your mind. Tonight, we're going to show you some things that have happened that I don't think anybody's reporting on. I don't know anybody that's reporting on the facts on 9/11 and what's happened with Islamic extremism here in the United States. Nobody. We're going to show you some video that I don't think anybody has shown. Why isn't anybody showing this? Oh, we have Keith Ellison crying. But we don't actually listen to the words of people who are Muslim who know what trouble is coming. We will tonight.
GBTV. The truth lives here.